First of all, welcome. It's fantastic you can join us this evening, as this is part of the Select Members Fest. It's the first time they've done this, and there's been a huge range of activities and events, both online and in person, organised for this week. And SLG, I think as soon as we knew this was happening, we said, yes, we're going to do something for our members. And also if you're catching up with this later, because I know a lot of people are planning to watch the recording, then welcome to you too. We had two sessions this evening. We've got the first session will be presented by Andrea, Varney and Laura Chesover, who are part of the British Library Learning Team. And then our second session, which will be at 7:30, is being delivered by James Massey, who's Development Manager for Schools at the Copyright Licensing Agency. So two very useful CPD sessions for not only school librarians, but hopefully for other members of the information profession as well. Very quickly, I just want to do a call out for two SLG activities. One is the Pupil Library Assistant Award. Nominations are now open and they close on the 18th of November. So that's just over a month. So if you're thinking of nominating one of your students, please do. And secondly, a date for your diary, which is our next webinar we're planning, which is teaching skills for librarians, and that's on the 18th of January. We don't have any links or anything yet, but watch this space basically. So that's enough from me, and I'm going to hand over to Andrea and Laura for our first session. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks so much, Barbara. I'll just share my screen. Sorry to take a second. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. A huge welcome to everyone. It's very lovely to be with some people who love libraries as much as me and Laura do. As Barbara said, I'm Andrea Varney and I work in the learning team at the British Library. So the British Library, as you may know, is the National Library of the UK, and we hold a whole collection of 170 million items, from 3,000-year-old Chinese oracle bones to today's newspaper. One day, we really hope to see you at the British Library in London. My colleague Laura, who you might be able to see on the screen there, will tell you all about all the amazing things you can do if you come. First, I'm going to show you some of the things that you can access completely free from either your home or your school. My job is to find treasures to put online to excite young people, and then I run a national programme to inspire schools across the UK to engage them with them in creative ways. We have a whole suite of online resources and live streamed events which support our core purpose to make our cultural heritage available to everyone for research, inspiration and enjoyment. So our resources use treasures from the British Library and other incredible collections to bring learning to life for students, librarians, teachers and lifelong learners. And the aim is to enrich the curriculum, nurture research skills and information literacy, and I think we'll come back to that a little bit later, and to spark creativity, reading and writing for pleasure. You may be aware that parts of the British Library's learning websites are inaccessible at the moment following a cyber attack last October, but we're delighted to have restored access to selected resources using a platform called Padlet, and I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of some of the wonderful things that you can use right now. These will be gradually added to, and we'll keep you posted with more information as soon as we can on our website and via social media, and I'll show you those links in a sec. So our Discovering Children's Books resource explores the history and diversity of children's books. It's aimed mainly at primary, and I believe many of you are secondary school librarians, but I hope you'll be able to see some of the wonderful ways you might be able to use this rich resource with students. So each term we set a creative bookmaking challenge, ranging right from making comics to picking up your own fairy tale or writing a poetry notebook to spark love of reading and writing. And we asked authors and illustrators to take part and share their work on film. The aim is to demystify the creative purpose, encourage, the creative process, and empower children to really see themselves as the writers and storytellers of the future. So you can see a whole host of our past projects on YouTube at Discovering Children's Books. These range right from making a miniature book. So we asked children to help us create a library of miniature books inspired by the tiny volumes made by Charlotte Bronte and her siblings for Little Bramwell's Toy Soldiers, and by wonderful handmade books by contemporary authors, ranging right from Joseph Coelho to Jacqueline Wilson and Philip Arder. We were absolutely blown away by the books that children have made, and I know that children at your schools can make something similar. So they make just the most amazing things, sharing their passions and worries, and really, I think just giving them agency to create books of their own seems to often reignite the love of writing. This autumn, we're asking children to step inside their own stories and make concertina books or little zigzag books with themselves in the starring role to celebrate identity and heritage. And this one is one made for us by the fantastic SF Saeed, who explores some tricky questions like where are you from, who are you, and how do you pronounce your name? This can be a really lovely project to do with both adults and children. So we've seen, for example, a group of people in Rochdale, run by Rochdale Council, with bilingual parents at Spotland Primary School, making these beautiful concertina books that spark some incredible conversations. And you can see a whole hub of resources to support projects like this, perhaps as a kind of impetus for book clubs or for after school clubs, to inspire you at your school. So yeah, on our Step Inside Your Story activity page, there are videos, book recommendations, and author interviews from people including JT Williams and Maisie Chan. We've also got a massive range of resources to support secondary English and history. So recently we've been delighted to recover 100 of the best loved articles from our very, very popular Discovering Literature website. And the site, I'm going to give you a little sort of glimpse of the site, but do have a rummage later. So the site has covers literature ranging right from Beowulf to The Bloody Chamber, and from John Agard to Angela Carter. It's arranged in modules, sort of modules ranging right from medieval to Shakespeare, 19th century literature and 20th century literature. And there are a whole host of really rich resources for each of those. You can see short illustrated articles written by experts, authors, poets, playwrights and academics, aiming to build subject knowledge, prompt independent research, and really kind of build a bridge between school and university, making expert views accessible. Within those articles, there are sometimes short documentary films shot on location, giving you a glimpse of the worlds in which key writers were producing their iconic works. And one of my favourite things is that you can explore the messy drafts and notebooks of writers from Andrea Levy. So these are Andrea Levy's drafts for her amazing Small Island, and you can see her experimenting with the character of Hortense there, to books that appear on the curriculum, like William Blake's London, and that's the draft from his incredibly gorgeous notebook there. As well as manuscripts, embedded within some of the articles are really vivid contextual sources to bring the worlds of the authors to life. So these are all things used as part of articles on J.B. Priestley, showing how his experience of 2 world wars sort of shaped his socialist ideals in and spectacles. So they can be really rich resources for independent research or for teachers and librarians to use when students ask for help. A really incredibly rich resource as part of our Discovering Literature timeline, Padlet, is our Black Literature Timeline, which explores the rich history of Black writing in Britain through just over 50 texts. And we've been delighted to see this poster on lots of school library walls this month particularly, and across the year. The timeline exists, as I say, as a poster, but also as a digital resource. And please do email us at that address on the screen there if you'd like us to send you more copies. It ranges from 18th century writers like Ignatius Sancho to contemporary authors such as Mallory Blackman. And for each one, you can see really incredible quotes capturing something of the voice and spirit of each author. There are high-resolution photographs of writers from Beryl Gilroy to Benjamin Zephaniah, and rich sources to showcase their work. You can listen to audio and video clips of David Olusoga or Grace Nichols reading her poetry. And there are nuggets of contextual information highlighted there in yellow alongside the literary information. So I really hope you'll browse the Padlet of resources relating to the Black Literature Timeline. We've just created a teacher's resource pack, and that should definitely also say librarian's resource pack, full of ideas for using this to celebrate Black literature and culture, to explore texts in context, and to read and write for pleasure. One of the things we'd love you to do with your students is to extend the timeline and for them to suggest poets and scriptwriters and songwriters or people from the worlds of TV and sport who belong on the timeline and make a pitch for them to be there. Finally, I just want to show you our Discovering Historical Sources website, which is being developed by some of our colleagues to support Key Stage 3 and GCSE history. It's very much aimed at exploring the history of migration and empire and foregrounding sort of lesser sources. All websites, it has a rich mix of sources, films and teachers' notes. And unfortunately, although the launch of the site was delayed by the cyber attack, our colleagues have again found ways to share it. So there are Padlets with inquiries full of sources and questions and teachers' notes, one exploring Britain and India, and the second one exploring European migrants in Britain. So I very much hope you'll share those with your history colleagues if you think they might be of use. And finally, for all our resources and campaigns, we run a series of free live stream CPD events. So next Wednesday, you can join the inimitable Emma Smith and teacher Michael Doncourt and teacher and founder of Shakespeare, Race and Pedagogy, Dr. Wendy Lennon, for a CPD on Othello in context. So please do sign up for that and have a look on our X account and on our website for details of other live streamed events in the future. I think that's everything. Over to you, Laura. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Andrea. And now bear with me while I share the screen also. Andrea, could you tell me that you can see that?
I can.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone, for being with us on a Thursday evening, so close to the weekend, this hour of the day. My name is Laura Chesover. I'm the Schools Programme Manager at the British Library, and I would just like to walk you through a little bit of what we get up to on-site and in person at the library. We run a long-standing schools programme that welcomes above 22,000 students and teachers and school librarians to the site each year. The programme is completely free, and we would love you to tell your teaching colleagues about it and to join us with groups yourselves. We have a programme with something to offer all our students aged from Key Stage 1 through to Key Stage 5. It's a very busy programme, often working with up to 6 schools a day. And by and large, schools come to us from the London area, but 32% actually from the southeast. And then we have, and often it is librarians actually that bring groups from much further afield. So this year we've welcomed groups from Wales, from Scotland, and from Cornwall, and we are always delighted to do so, whilst acknowledging there are many barriers to making such a long journey to visit us. We work with students in mainstream provision, but also in alternative provision settings. We frequently work with students with special educational and additional needs. And all of this programming takes place in 2 main areas. We have a learning centre with 3 classrooms, so spaces to learn and be creative and get messy. And then we have our exhibition spaces, which double as classrooms too, because we go into those galleries for immersive learning experiences also. So this is the team that welcome all of those thousands of students and teachers each year. They are a brilliant bunch, and they are delivering the workshops, which we have here, our core workshop programme. So hopefully there's something here that piques your interest. We have everything from making artist books to voyaging to maps to exploring Black British literature and everything in between. One that I would point to that may be of interest is our Research Matters workshop, which focuses on research skills with particular focus on the EPQ, extended project qualification. We set up the equivalent of a reading room space for that one. It's also important to mention our sound collections. As Andrea said, there are 170 million items and counting at the British Library within the collection, and many of them are to be found within our sounds collection. So we work with that sound archive in workshops such as Sound Lab and also Windrush Voices. Here's just one example of what it looks like when we're working in an exhibition space. So here, colleagues Sandra and Quinn are pictured in the recent Mallory Blackman exhibition, the British Library's first exhibition dedicated to a living author, and an example of some of the work created by students as part of that workshop, which took place entirely within the exhibition setting, is there. We found it was so powerful as an exhibition. The themes of identity, Mallory's perseverance in terms of her publishing journey really spoke to students, and being able to spend time immersed in that space was really, really valuable and was extremely inspiring for them creatively. Outside that core programme of free 90-minute workshops, we then programme lots of other special events to keep the programme vibrant and exciting and fresh, and give librarians and teachers a reason to keep coming back to us to see what we're up to. So we've worked with some very high-profile authors to live stream author events from our Knowledge Centre Theatre, welcoming 250 students on the day, and then webcasting out across the UK into classrooms. So Mallory Blackman has joined us for one of those. Jeffrey Brache, we're being joined this term by Nina Ramirez, and I'll speak to that in a moment. We've also worked with partners, and we do that really frequently. Africa Writes Festival's School Day was a recent highlight. We also want always to bring our collections into the heart of everything we do, particularly when we're talking about information literacy and when we're thinking about the Knowledge Matters strategy that the library holds itself to, and its real mission to spark joy. Often that comes from exciting interactions with curators or our collections, and we're the team that facilitate that. We recently delivered a lesson at 10 Downing Street, and we also work in an outreach format with our most local schools in Camden around World Book Day. And here we've got Mallory and a bunch of librarians and teachers who joined us for that special event. An emerging area of our practice is co-creation with students, and what you see here is a guide to our recent exhibition Beyond the Baseline, which was created by the Year 6 students of Hitherfield Primary School. Everything you see here was created by the students themselves, and we worked with them over a period of time to help them familiarise themselves with the exhibition before letting them loose in there with iPads to set the agenda. They selected all of the collections items that are featured and dictated how the tasks should be. The illustrations are their own, the photographs are their own, and it's just an example of how we want to centre our student voice and audience. Another example was our fantasy exhibition, where we worked with 4 different school librarians, and they were specifically school librarians, who selected students to work with us and the author Neil Gaiman to create this co-created worksheet to run alongside the fantasy exhibition. Each of these with a creative writing prompt which linked up with the exhibition's themes. And then I wanted to let you know about what we're up to this season. So we are just about to open a really exciting and powerful timed exhibition, Medieval Women in Their Own Words. We will be running workshops for secondary students in Key Stage 3, 4 and 5. And I'd really urge you to share the links with teaching colleagues in the history departments, or indeed to bring groups yourselves. We have many committed librarians that bring multiple groups each year, and we'd love you to be able to meet you in person on site. Around that workshop, we also have special programming happening. So I wanted to flag the event with Nina Ramirez, the Professor Nina Ramirez, I should say, the TV presenter and Oxford academic, who is joining us on the 13th of December to host a in-person and live streamed event in our Knowledge Centre Theatre. There are free tickets available for the in-person event, and they are still available. So if you would like to bring a group to us, we would be delighted to welcome you. There are also tickets available for free of charge for the online streamed version of this experience as well. So again, we'll share the link, and it would be great to see many of you there online. A further opportunity I wanted to flag is for those of you with sixth form colleges and A-level students. We will be working with the author Kate Moss on a very special masterclass for a limited number of students who are keen to explore creative writing at undergraduate level, or who would like to pursue writing as a career. If you think you have somebody who fits the bill, and you would like to join us again for this free and exceptional opportunity to work directly with the author herself on some historical fiction writing, then please do get in touch with me via my email address. I wanted to just have a little bit more of a deep dive into research matters. I covered it briefly earlier, but I think it's one of the areas that as librarians, perhaps our work speaks to you most. This is the session. It's been in development for a little while, and we're keen to now put it out into the world and invite as many Key Stage 5 students into our space as possible. We turn our space in the Learning Centre into a mini reading room for the day, and students have a chance to really to demystify the research process. They get a sense of how the library works, an introduction to our space, an orientation in terms of what they would need in order to be able to sign up for a reader's pass and to join us again in the future. And it's really been designed very much with the extended project qualification in mind. So it's a really great one to do with students as they set out on their journey, or as they're going through that process, particularly as it involves so much reflection along the way. Now, we are very aware at the British Library that information literacy is one of the emerging priorities in our Knowledge Matters strategy. And we know that as librarians, you folks are also on the sort of front line of sometimes the lack of information literacy that students have, or the needs that they have around improving their information literacy. The CILIP definition we really like because it's so broad and applies across so many contexts. I've just listed them here because I think it's helpful to be reminded, particularly of the everyday ethical online behaviours, social media and online privacy element, which I think speaks to our young people. And I think we're all very aware around the citizenship and fake news element of information literacy and the education value of critical thinking skills. But I would be really interested, if you wouldn't mind, to pick your brains briefly for a few minutes before we hand you back to the the folks convening tonight. I wondered if I could pose some questions and we could pop those into the chat function. So my first question, if you would sort of have a little think about this one, is if you could tell us what you think the greatest challenges for your students are in relation specifically to information literacy. And I'm now going to try and work the chat.
We did send the questions out when we sent the link out, I think, but do you want to put the questions in the chat? Because the chat's going, we're going to put the links when we send the recordings out to people. For people that signed up, we'll send them the questions as well. And
lovely. I was actually, I wondered if we could maybe have a little bit of a moment now.
Yeah.
So
here we go. Somebody said first port of call is accessing information via a mobile phone, not a computer. That's the point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not all websites are really designed to be read very well on a mobile phone, are they? You sort of miss a lot of information off. You don't realise there's pages underneath what you're reading. Right.
Actually, yes, I can see some coming in now. So the majority of our students have no gut instinct about information literacy. It's very difficult to persuade them that a source might not be true.
And somebody's put knowing if a source is credible.
Yeah. Power of social media. Thank you. I'll just give people a minute to
Power of social media and echo chambers are louder than our voices. It's very difficult to persuade the general public that a source they see online is not true, isn't it?
So if we
digital footprint.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Can I ask now what narrowing down from the hundreds of results that Google may produce? Okay, that's really helpful actually, Sarah, because the next question I wanted to pose is what do your students need to help them improve their information literacy? So I'll pop it in the chat. What do your students need to improve?
It's interesting, isn't it, that you say, you get hundreds of results from Google, but I've noticed that now when I Google anything, my top result is Google's AI interpretation. That comes at the top. They're using AI, and you get your AI answer before you get all the links that might be useful, which is as a librarian, I would just say go away. I want to look at the links. I don't want an AI conglomeration. I want those links so I can assess individual links. But I'm guessing from a student's point of view, the fact they're all lumped together and the explanation is given to them, it makes it easier, I guess.
Lovely. I'll give people just a few more minutes on that.
Information overload. Somebody's mentioned the use of AI.
Okay. And the final question, I actually wanted to, if it's possible, Gareth, for people's mics to be unmuted, because I wondered if we could just open this into a brief discussion. I'm interested to know what would be useful for you folks as librarians in terms of CPD around information literacy.
Are we talking about us as adult librarians, not for our students? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know whether I might actually come to Morphy. You've mentioned senior management don't always understand what information literacy is. And there seems to be a bit of confusion around literacy and reading and where it intersects. What would, Morphy, I don't know whether you're able to just elaborate on what might help in terms of training there.
It's explaining to senior management basically what information literacy is. And before I go to them, I know you're all going to go, oh, but I need to be sure that I know definitely what I'm talking about. I've got a good idea of what it is. It's being able to understand information and sift through the dross to find the gems. But it's how we teach the kids to do that. And at the moment, when I spoke to my manager about looking at the possibility of working out how information literacy can be found in the reading scheme that we're doing. I don't know if anyone else is doing Grammasaurus. I'm a primary school library, by the way. How much can they learn from Grammasaurus and transfer to their information searches?
Does that resonate with anybody else? I wonder also around the role of AI, whether there is any training that you feel would be useful.
Yeah, you see, I agree with that as well. AI, the use of AI. I know some teachers are already using it.
I think, Vicky, you mentioned it, and yeah, absolutely, Morphy, thank you so much. And Vicky, I think it was you that mentioned AI. I don't know whether you would just like to.
Yeah, it's just so I'm helping the kids right now with EPQs and research skills around that, and because AI is a whole new thing also for the extended qualification project. How to teach the kids that the first thing that's generated by Google is not actually based on any facts. It's just based on the most popular answers or most clicked on websites and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of teaching the kids how to use AI responsibly, because I don't think it would be a good idea to say you have to stop using all sorts of AI, but how to use it responsibly and how to deal with things like the Google search, which generates answers. How do they deal with that? Because it doesn't always tell you where they found the information.
Sure. And do you feel, in terms of your own skill set, ready to take on that challenge, or is the training that you would find useful, do you think?
Well, I would probably just go old school and do my research old school, like Google Scholarship, Scholarly, or JSTOR and all that kind of stuff. Find actual articles that are peer-reviewed. But what we have, the main issue at our school at the moment is the kids don't have access to JSTOR because it just costs too much for them.
Yeah.
So they tend to rely on just websites, and then they might not be able to access libraries, physical libraries that have the type of research that they need, because our school library is very limited when it comes to nonfiction, and to be fair, a lot of it is out of date.
And actually, looking at the comments, I can see you've also mentioned access to services like JSTOR being unaffordable.
Yes, I'm at the moment in the process of giving inductions to my year 12s, and I would love to show them, Britannica online, JSTOR, Hodder, but I can't afford it. I have a meager 4,000 spend every year, which goes mainly on books to support the curriculum. Yeah, so I think, these databases are just too expensive for school budgets these days.
Can I ask folks, just before we wrap up, I can see there are still messages coming in, but was there anything else in terms of training for you?
Jane, did you put your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm EPQ coordinator as well as being a school librarian, and we're finding that EPQ candidates, that's the first time those students have had to know anything to do with information literacy. It's starting to creep into the exam board specification in terms of referencing. That's now part of the NEA at some A-level subjects. So I am now doing workshops at A-level for history, geography, English lit, things like that, where it's creeping into the requirements. But if the exam board don't require it, the teachers won't teach it. And things like use of AI, there is a JCQ statement for all exam boards about use of AI, but it's garbage. It's really vague. They don't want to come on a side yet. It's too early. And the advice on AI is they can use it, but they have to acknowledge that they've used it and what they've used it for. but the exam boards are obviously still trying to scramble to figure out how you in any way check for that, and what you do as a result of catching it. But also I just find that the kids, they automatically trust an AI response, but it's very difficult for us because they haven't been exposed to it at any point before sixth form. They haven't been given those principles.
Yeah.
So for my sort of school librarian head, I have been asked very specifically to not do information literacy work, focus on reading for pleasure, which came from a good place of focusing on reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
But we find that departments around the school are describing problems with their students that are information literacy problems, but nobody in teaching or in school management has that vocabulary, or thinks of the librarian as a possible solution to it.
Yeah.
Or that it could be
That's
part
true.
of a solution. So things like the kids not being able, the reason they trust AI is it's the first result and that's all they know how to do. But they also don't know how to send an email. So of course they aren't accessing high level databases. They can't print things. They don't have the literacy of computer literacy, which comes onto a whole separate issue with the computing curriculum. But that without that native ability to even look around a website, you can't even begin to interrogate whether it's a reliable website. And then also they get a lot from their parents. So for example, it's very difficult to explain to a child that the Daily Mail might not be a reliable source if their parents are absolutely convinced that it is. And then it becomes, I have to pretend that the exam board have said that you can't use the Daily Mail, because the exam board, they will respect, that's an authority they fear. But me as a librarian or their teachers, we're in a much more delicate political position. You can't say that's a gutter press trash rag about anything, because you have to be quite neutral. But you have to try and intimate that this might not be the route you want to go down. It's very difficult, both as EPQ coordinator and as librarian. So as EPQ coordinator, it's difficult to teach those skills. As librarian, it's difficult to get access to even begin to build a curriculum for it. Because I don't have library lessons, because our curriculum is so crammed full of other stuff that there's no space for that. But also, even if we had library lessons, I think if you teach something as a discrete library skill, they don't apply it in any other lesson. So we've had a whole, there's a huge problem, but it's societal, and then we're experiencing the trickle down of that in everything. That was a very...
I need to just say, we're running a bit late, so I need to wind things up.
So sorry.
Because James is sitting there probably thinking, when are they going to stop talking?
I am so sorry.
And I just wanted to say that with what Jane was saying, I think when they removed coursework, that removed a lot of the necessity of learning how to do referencing and quote sources and things, because I was delivering those sorts of information literacy skills to A-level students. They stopped needing to do coursework as part of their exam syllabus, so they didn't need those skills anymore. And also, you've mentioned the language. I think there is the language, we talk about information literacy, and I think teachers see it as something different than what we've got in our heads. And I think we need to, and in a way, maybe talking about media and digital literacy might pull them in a bit more than just information literacy.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much. And if you would like to continue this conversation with us, my email address is I think will be shared by Barbara. So please get in touch. We would very much welcome the opportunity to speak to all of you about this. We are thinking about the CPD that we could make possible in this space, and what our role as the National Library and the convener could be around this. So if you have strong views, please get in touch. I'd love to have you all for another hour to talk about this some more.
I know, we could just carry on, couldn't we?
Happy to.
But can I just say huge thanks to Andrea and Laura, really interesting. I've been to the British Library for exhibitions. I've even taken groups of students to workshops and things. And I'm always blown away by your online resources. You've got so many. I could just spend hours delving into them all. I will certainly be promoting some of those in the next SLG newsletter, particularly your Research Matters, your new resource, because I think a lot of librarians will be interested in that. So thank you very much. Now, Gareth, we're going to do a